Well, now I'm going to turn to Tom Farrell, and Tom has something special for tonight, I think. Tom's going to talk about Al Judy's layout. So, Tom, I'll take it over to you, sir.
Thank you for having me this evening. And yes, tonight we're going to have something special. Tonight we're going to feature Al Judy. We talk about him a lot. If you're not a narrow gauge modeler or specifically an On30 modeler, you might not know exactly who he is, other than we held him in continue to hold him in great reverence. He died here recently, unexpectedly. You know, without getting too prolific, perhaps one of the only certainties in life is our eventual passing. And when a model railroader of his stature dies, I mean, their life's work is complete. And for those of us that know him, it's time to start building and continuing his legacy within the hobby. I recently featured a lot of his work on the On30 railroading page. And tonight I'll share photos that Al took, tell you a little about Al, and then some photos I took of his layout. So I hope you enjoy this. As we say, he died August 3rd, and he was really a very good friend of a lot of us. And I couldn't even give this presentation in August or September. I just would be beside myself. He was a real icon in the community, and he was a gifted artist, an exceptional modeler, fantastic photographer, and a real advocate for the hobby. He was our leader for On30, and you know, Ben Poole captured this very well here. He was a world-class modeler, particularly good with locomotives, structures. The biggest thing he did was he gave back to the hobby all the time. One of the things that came to light after his passing was the enormous amount of texts that he would handle throughout the world. How many people called him a friend, how many people asked him for advice, and everybody said the same thing. Oh, I texted Al the other day, and he texted me right back. This is not 20, not 30. This is in the hundreds. Al was a force of nature in our hobby. He had over 20,000 followers in Facebook. You know, I get excited when I get 200, 250 views on one of my presentations. In 20,000. I mean, think about that. And he also, in his lifetime, he ran a hobby shop. He originally started out in HO, and when he saw the Bachmann come out with the On30, he was hooked, and he never looked back, like many of us. And he was a real mentor. I called him up now and again when I had questions. He always took my calls, and again, he took them from hundreds of people. I don't know how he did it. I consider him, and I told him this when he was alive, that he was the John Allen of On30, because he gives back to the hobby. And on my structure that I featured here on New Tracks Modeling, and it won 3 awards as best structure in various shows, I featured Al Judy as one of the portraits next to John Allen. This was before his passing, so this was not post his passing. This is how I felt about him before he left our model railroading world. One of the biggest things he did were these shows, not just narrow gauge, but O scale. This was this year in April. I went to both of these shows. O scale 2 rail, traction, Proto 48, ON30. He hit all these scales. He reached out to all these people, and he had associated Facebook pages for all of these scales. This you may or may not know. And then, of course, the big show that was the June show. What was so, I don't know what the word is, so odd was in June, he was running around in his element at this show, king of the world, laughing, and 2 months later, he's gone. I mean, it was just unbelievable. These shows were different. I've attended National Model Railroad shows. I've attended the great train shows, basically all of my teen and adult life. It's difficult to say how unique these shows are unless you attend one, but it's more like a family reunion. That's the only way to say it. And I've made lifelong friends at these shows. Literally like a family gathering. This man was in his element at this. He was just smile for 2 days continuously, thoroughly enjoying the event that he organized and built. We had a discussion this past June. He said he was going to call it the International Narrow Gauge Meet, because we had people from, I think he said 7 different countries. We had them as far away as France, Australia, Germany. It was vastly becoming a globally attended conference. And it's very casual. You know, other shows, it's tough. Again, it's tough to convey, you know, everybody just is in a relaxed state. You're talking to the vendors. There were a lot of vendors there, a lot of manufacturers, major vendors. This is one of the neat things about the both shows is they have a on-site Friday evening picnic. This is not a photograph of everybody that's there, just a section. But you know, everybody floats around, and you can see several New Tracks members in here. Those that attended will attest just how much fun these shows were. Then for a select 2 or 3 of us, after the show, we go over Al's house and have a few adult beverages and carry on a little bit, prepare ourselves for the next day. It was just a lot of fun. And that photograph pretty much sums up Al. The guy enjoyed life and enjoyed the hobby immensely. There's a group of guys called the Red Shirts. For years, I was an unofficial member of the Red Shirts, but now I guess I'm an official member. The Red Shirts helped pull off the shows, helped the vendors set up, helped with everything. And the Red Shirts will ensure that these shows go on. And Al had a ON30 Railroading Facebook page with nearly 8,000 members. Al turned that over to me as the administrator. So I run this Facebook page, and I have help with Ben Poole as a moderator and our very own Jeff Jordan as a moderator. And we're trying to preserve the legacy and the convey and keep moving the ON30 world forward. A lot of innovation happens in ON30. These are the 2 shows for next year. The flyers are made up. We moved the all low scale meet was moved to later in the year. This was Al's plan, but the big show that for the narrow gauge is going to be June 13th and 14th of next year in Harrisburg. And then in the fall, early fall, late summer, is the all low scale meet. So we're gonna keep his Facebook page going, keep these shows going, and preserve this legacy. Now, if you've ever seen most people's workshops, including mine, they get a little messy. He's the Felix Unger of workshops. His workshop was immaculate. Every time he did a project, he'd clean it up. I think he did this, well, that's just how he is, but he had so many visitors throughout the year. I think it was just became a very good habit to keep it well organized and clean as a pin. Then he had his own, he had his layout in the next room, the On30 Mill Creek and Lycoming. This is a museum quality layout. It features scratch builds and kits and other master model railroaders' structures you would incorporate into his scenes. The next part of this presentation is going to be photographs from Al, and then photographs that I took while visiting Al's layout. CPF photography, there's only a couple of us that do this on the On30 railroading page, Al and myself, basically. He was a master at this. I mean, honest to God, doesn't that look like it's something from the 1920s? I mean, it's just amazing modeling, museum quality. It's like you're there. No detail, you know. We'll get to the color ones in a moment, but extremely realistic. Look at the siding on that building, the rust running down here. I mean, interesting thing about Al Judy's layouts, he didn't glue anything down. It's one thing that a couple of us, one thing I never agreed with him on, but all his ballast is loose. All his track is loose. Nothing, he could change a scene. He could change a scene in an afternoon. He got away with it. And he built several layouts for people that the ballast, for example, and some of the structures weren't glued down. I sort of disagreed with him on that, but hey, his layout, his rules. He was particularly good at dressing out a locomotive. There was a little, he would put chains on these locomotives, and sometimes the chains would be a little heavy, and it was a running source of humor for us. What we call ourselves the black sheep of model railroading. So we greatly admired his work, but in fun, we'd point out that maybe those chains were a little heavy. These particular ones aren't. That was just a little running joke amongst the small community of On30 railroaders. Now we switch to color, and another thing he did is he mixed his own ballast. I have the magic elixir somewhere. I asked him what, those are commercial products and they're mixed. It looks quite realistic. For years he used, you know, with On30, we can use HO scale track. We have the same gauge. For years he just used regular HO scale track, but on his most recent rebuild of his layout, he began putting in Pico On30 track. It's not that it's necessarily more scale, the tie spacing is more correct, but it's a very robust product, On30, Pico On30 track. Pico products in general. Micro engineering looks better, but Pico's more robust. That one's a little out of focus, but he wasn't afraid to paint locomotives some of these odd colors. I recently featured an article in ON30, our ON30 Railroading Facebook page on the on that very subject. This is a sawmill that he built with interior detail. This was the masthead that I put in the ON30 railroading page for months. I popped his figure in here on the right just for fun. Look at the detail on that, complete with lights, sawdust, equipment, wire. I mean, it's like you could step in there and start working. Another breathtaking shot of his railroad. There's one that has the chains are a little bit too heavy. So that would be one for fair game on our inside joke, but not trying to point out flaws. I mean, this is just magnificent modeling. So the rocks and it captures a feel. If you have not seen his modeling, his New Tracks modeling lifestyle video, look it up on YouTube. It is the most watched video of the series. I think Jim must have did roughly 20 of them. And the modeling lifestyle of Al Judy has the highest view count. Check it out. Another great shot of a locomotive. Chains look good there. See these little details, burlap, and the retaining wall here. The rails are rusted. He'd left no detail untouched here. One of my favorite photographs. Look at those refrigerator cars. Al and I used to talk about composition. Composition of photographs. It's no accident that these photographs look as they do. If you're an artist, and Al was an artist, you compose these photographs. They're not snapshots. They don't look this way by accident. My photographs don't look my way by accident. They're composed. One of the things Al and I would talk about was composition all the time. Not a lot of people pay attention to composition when they put together a photograph, but Al certainly did. You know, he was very good modeler in all respects. Whether he said he enjoyed scenery best of all. He built a lot of unique structures, very unique structures, like a burned out engine house, for example. But I personally think he was just the finest modeler of these narrow gauge locomotives, weathering them, adding details, putting the highlights on. I mean, this is extremely magnified, and I mean, you just can't do any better than that. It's amazing. It's a scratch built engine house of his. I took these photographs after one of his shows. Like I say before, we would enjoy the libations that he would provide. We would go into the train room, and he'd let me loose on photographing. I have a whole bunch of photographs of his layout. It's like you could walk around here, you know. This is a kit. What's not in the kit is to open things like the windows, how you paint and weather things, how you handle the mortar on the bricks, how you do the scratching of the wood on the water tower, I mean, there's how you place these figures, like they're having a conversation. This guy's working. Um, he really knew how to dress up a scene where you could immerse yourself into the world of Al Judy. Um, Another particularly nice composition here. I feel like you could walk down those tracks, you know, a series of scratch built buildings, a kit, um, all the cars, everything has a uniform look and feel to it, a weathering, an ambiance about it. This was the world of Al Judy, master model railroader. It's another kit, but not in the kit is all this stuff, everything around it, and the boarding of the windows and the kit bashing. It's an unusual model. Um, these were steam shovels. They, just a quick history, these were turn of the century steam shovels. It required two operators doing this from memory. One ran the steam engine inside, one ran the crane. They were replaced roughly in the 1930s by diesels. Al got this from somebody that just couldn't put together the rigging here, gave him the kit in a semi-completed condition. Al finished her off and weathered it. See the little blocking under here? That's a little detail. You know, a lot of guys who just have that bucket on the ground. You know, coming from the mining industry, you don't leave buckets on the ground. You block them. Tree trunk here that looks definitely scratch built. Now, who thinks of this? So sometimes when we get locomotives that just fail in ON30, a lot of people just put them on their shelf, or he turns them into these derelicts. And see the rust here and the all these tarps and boards holding the tarps on, and it's a nice little touch, you know. The first time I ever saw a sluice gate was on Al Judy's layout. And I thought, what an interesting, this is a real close-up of it. But I'd never seen one of these. I vowed that I would put one on my layout if I could figure out a place to put one. This was the very last, why we're picking, that green is not on the, that's something unique to PowerPoint, putting that on there. This was the last scene Al Judy put together before his passing. It was a new rebuilt section. He said that he wanted to redo his entire layout. He talked about just tearing it all apart. And many of us suggested, why don't you do a section at a time? So he worked extremely fast. This was the last modeling he did right here. And these are scratch built and features the Pico track that he was switching to. And you know, when, as I said in the very beginning, he hasn't really left us so long as we maintain his memory. And you know, he impacted a lot of people in the hobby, and he really was the John Allen of ON30, perhaps the new John Allen period of O scale. He was quite an individual. He was the real deal. And this won't be the first. We'll do another one probably in the first of the year of Al, but I hope you enjoyed the modeling of this master model railroader. Yeah.
Tom, I can't thank you enough for putting this together. This was fantastic. This really brings home what a true artist he was. Tom, thanks so much again. Look forward to hearing more about Al down the road.
Thank you for having me.